So clients often ask me, Ellen, do I need to do estate tax planning in preparation for 2026? Well, first of all, you might be thinking, why 2026? Well, the estate tax landscape is always changing. In 2017, the amount doubled for the estate tax exemption. So now it's almost like $13 million per person, or just a little bit over. And then in 2026, it's scheduled to drop down to 5 million indexed for inflation, which will be about $7 million at that point. Okay, that's what we're guessing. So in 2026, the estate tax exemption is going to be a lot lower. Do we need to do planning? In this video, I'm going to talk all about that so you can get an idea if that planning is needed for you and your family. And I do want to actually ask you, before I dive in, I want to ask you if you know somebody who could use this information. Maybe it's a parent or another family member. I ask you to press that share button so you can share it with them and they can also benefit from this information. Do you need to worry about estate taxes? First of all, I have a video on estate taxes that I encourage you to watch after this. So I talk all about the nuances of estate taxes. What you need to know is that estate taxes, we also call them death taxes, they're not going to apply to that many people. For example, in 2019, 2.7 million people died in the United States, but only 0.15% of those people filed an estate tax return, and only 0.07% of those people actually paid estate taxes. So it's really anybody over, the threshold is now 13 times 2, $26 million for a married couple, or $13 million for a single person. Anything over that amount is taxed. Right now it's at about 40%. Even though we call it death taxes, it doesn't apply to that many people. How about for you? It might apply to you, and we all are going to die, so we should think about this. So what really is estate tax planning? Well, in a nutshell, it's really giving away your stuff at a discounted value. So you're getting stuff out of your estate so that when you die, there's less there for the government to tax. You're kind of doing proactive gift planning, all right? You're giving stuff, and usually it's to the next generation. That's the general concept. But I have to let you know, estate tax planning is complicated. And the big problem is, as I said, you're giving away your stuff. So at the end of the day, you won't have it anymore. So you really have to make sure that you have enough to live on for the rest of your life before you start making these gifts. I want to tell you a cautionary tale. And this is going to be a little history lesson of the estate tax exemption. In 2010, it looked like the estate tax exemption was going to plummet from $3.5 million down to $1 million. And that would affect a lot of people, because that meant, for a married couple, you could only protect $2 million. And then Congress fixed it, but just temporarily, so that in 2011 and 2012, we had it set at $5 million per person for the estate tax exemption. But then in 2013, it was supposed to revert back to $1 million per person unless Congress did something to fix it. And so let me tell you, by the end of 2012, Congress had not gotten their act together, which isn't that surprising, right? So people were freaking out, all right? They were calling their estate planning attorney and saying, the estate tax exemption is gonna drop and we're not gonna be able to we need to give away all of our stuff now. So at the firm that I was working at the time, a lot of people came in, they did a lot of gifting in different creative ways, and I'm gonna actually describe some of those ways to you soon. I happen to be on maternity leave, all right? My son was born in September 2012, and so I missed all of that craziness. Well, fast forward a few months, 2013 hits, and in early 2013, guess what happened? Congress fixed it. They established the estate tax exemption permanently at $5 million indexed for inflation. So it was actually $5.25 million, because it was starting at 2011 at the $5 million amount, all right? So up to $5.25 million, and people looked at this, they went, hold on, we didn't have to give away all that stuff in the first place. I want it back, give it back. And they came back to our firm and tried to undo those gifts. Well, it's hard to undo gifts that you've already made. So I just want to warn you, as we're approaching 2026, we don't know what's going to happen. But I do want to give you a few examples of creative ways that people make these gifts, so you can kind of get a feel for it, get an idea, and see if that might work for you and your family.
Hey everyone, if you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
Okay, so I think that the simplest way of giving away stuff at a discounted value is something we call fractional gifting. Let's say that I own a house and I give you 2% of that house. How much is that 2% actually worth? Well, if the house is worth $1 million, you'd think that that 2% is worth $20,000, right? But here's the question. Would you be able to, the person who receives that 2% of the house, would they be able to turn around and sell it for $20,000? I don't think so. Who wants to buy 2% of somebody else's house, right? You don't really have control over that 2%. And because of that, the IRS thinks that $20,000 is discounted. It's worth less than $20,000. Maybe it's only worth $15,000. Maybe it's only worth $12,000. All right. So that's the idea. You give away a $20,000 asset, but you only have to report $12,000 or $15,000 on the gift tax return. Okay. And for that small of an asset, we actually, that would fall under the annual exclusion. But I'm trying to give you an example of what does that look like to give away something and the value is lower. Let me give you another example. There's something called a QPRT, a Qualified Personal Residence Trust. So the idea is this is a trust. It's an irrevocable trust that you put your residence in. You say, okay, I'm going to put my house in there, or we're going to put our house in there. We have to survive the term of this trust. So let's say the trust is supposed to last for 5 years. After 5 years, the house distributes to your kids, as long as you outlived that 5-year term. So how much is the gift of your house? So let's say you have a house worth $1 million, all right? You put it into that QPRT and it goes to the kids. What is the amount that you have to report to the IRS on the Form 709, on the gift tax return? You don't have to report the full $1 million because, well, the kids had to wait to get that house. If I were to say, hey, I have $10 for you, but you have to wait 5 years and then come back and get it, right? How much is that $10 worth to you when I say I have it? Not that much. And the IRS puts a discount of about 40% of that. So it's as if I only gave you $6 instead of $10. So same thing with the house. You take a 40% discount of that $1 million and it's like you gave away $600,000 of the house, not the full $1 million. So you can see that you're giving away control of the asset, you're giving away ownership of the asset, and it's at a reduced value. All right, so those are two. There's a lot of other examples out there of this type of planning. And I know just enough to be dangerous. I don't actually do this planning, but I can refer it to somebody else. But I do want you to get a feel for, would this really work for my family? If you have an estate, I think, of, more than $14 million, maybe more than $20 million, you might want to consider this type of gifting. But if you're younger, you might need that money for a lot longer. I think the type of gifting that could make sense is, let's say you're a startup owner and you have some stocks that are going to become a lot more valuable in the future. You might want to gift those stocks to your child, or maybe to your child's special needs trust, okay, or your child's dynasty trust. Get them out of your estate while the value is still pretty low, and then they can blow up in the child's estate. When you die, it's not part of your taxable estate. You don't have to pay estate taxes. So that type of that type of estate tax planning, to me, makes a little bit more sense than getting rid of a whole lot of your stuff. Because what if you have a huge medical emergency that's not covered by insurance? You need that money. I mean, your kids, once you do that QPRT, right? Once the house goes into that trust and goes out to your kids, you can still rent the house back from your kids. And that's another nice way of getting income, assets out of your name to your kids. But what if your kids decide, hey, I want to sell that house out from under my parents? They can do that, all right? So you're giving up control of assets. So I've found that while people like the idea of not paying Uncle Sam more taxes, when it really comes down to it, a lot of people hesitate because they don't want to give up ownership or control of their assets. Okay, so as you can tell, I'm a bit hesitant about estate tax planning, but if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, that's a really good idea for our family, you should go for it. But I do caution you, you should speak with an estate planning attorney now. Don't wait until the middle of 2025, because those who do this high net worth estate tax planning, they're going to be very busy in the middle of 2025, I can guarantee you. So speak with somebody now. Get a plan together for the next 2 years to see what might happen. It's possible also that Congress might fix it at the end of 2026 and keep the estate tax exemption at, $13 million, $14 million, but they might not. We just don't know. So I hope that this video was helpful for you, and please again, share it with your friends and family.
Hello everyone! If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time!